Hello and welcome to episode 12 of the A Little Craft Room podcast. My name's Nicola. I run A Little Craft Room on pretty much all platforms, some of which you can find below. It's been a little while since I've had a podcast. It's been a lot on the last few weeks. It's all been a little bit crazy, but I'm here. This is probably going to be my last one now till the end of the year, because it's going to be very busy over the next couple of weeks, a lot to do, and I'm just gonna take the time to enjoy this time of year because I really like it. I hope you've had a lovely day so far. I hope you have something nice to drink. I have my Knit Happens mug, and it's got some Whittard of Chelsea mulled wine flavoured instant tea in there as well, which is a little bit too hot right now. But I will be enjoying that all the way through this episode. And I've got a lot to talk about today, actually, because it's been a while since I've done a podcast. So I've got a lot to go through, some finished objects that I'm finally able to talk about. And I'm really looking forward to having some knitty and crochet chat. So I'm going to start off with what I am wearing. This is the chunky Dahlia sweater, and I can conclusively say this is my favourite garment that I have made, full stop. There is just no competition. This is my favourite. I adore it. I've loved it since the second I saw the first ever photo of it. I think I saw it on Instagram and I just knew that I had to make it. I absolutely fell in love, and I made this at the start of the year. I think it was January, and I just adore it. So it's made in Drops Air and Drops Kid Silk held together. The Drops Air in the colour wheat and Kid Silk in light beige. And those two yarns are held together. They're not the recommended ones for the pattern, I don't believe, but I knew a lot of people had used those when making this particular sweater, so I knew that they would work. I'd seen a lot of pictures of people using that combination. So the Drops Air is a 65% alpaca, 25% nylon and 7% wool. And then the Kid Silk is 75% mohair and 25% silk. And it is just a divine combination. It's so soft. It was actually the first time I'd ever held yarns together, which I was a bit nervous about. I don't know why. I think I was concerned that it would be different, and it really wasn't. I think I built it up in my head to be worse than it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a lot more complicated than anything I'd done, and it was barely any different from just normal knitting. So that one was a little bit of an unnecessary concern. But it is beautiful and soft. The Drops Air is a blown yarn, which is my favourite type of yarn. I absolutely adore blown yarns. I just find them really soft and squishy. So that was a major selling point for me, but they are so soft. This is an incredibly warm, cosy jumper, and I've worn it quite a lot over the last few weeks, apart from anything else. But it was one of those where I just really like putting it on. It's so soft, it's so cozy, and it's got the most lovely halo. I don't know whether that's going to come through. I mean, you can kind of see a little bit on camera. The halo for this is just beautiful. It's the coziest thing. So this is a pattern by Lene Holm Samso, and as I said, I just adored it. The second I saw a photo, I knew I had to make it. But I took a while to make it, actually. I think it was a good year from seeing the picture to actually taking the plunge and making it, and that was partly because I'd never done anything that resembled lace knitting before. So this kind of yoke design was very intimidating at first, the first time I saw it. I'd made garments and I knew how to knit, I knew how to purl, but I'd never tried anything resembling lace. So when I saw the picture, I thought, right, I know I want to make that, but I'm not sure I'm good enough yet to make that. And I'm terrible for doing that. I'm always putting myself down like that. But I thought I don't want to make it until I know I won't ruin it. So I put it off for a little bit, and I made a few more garments, and I wanted to kind of build up my knitting, because I've been a crocheter for quite a few years, and I haven't really gone as much with the knitting until recent years. I hadn't really done as much of it, so I was really worried that I would ruin it if I tried it, and I loved it too much. I didn't want to risk ruining it. So I thought, well, I'll do a few more garments, get my knitting confidence up, and then I'll try it. And it was at the start of this year, I thought, yeah, you know what, I just want it too much now. I'm going to try it. I can always pull back. I knew I could pull back, and I went for it. And I'm so glad. I'm so glad I did, because I cannot overstate how much I adore this. So the yoke pattern, it goes all the way around, and I adore it. I keep saying it, but I can't stress how much I love it. It was a really clear pattern. This yoke design is a charted pattern, so it is graphed out, and I hadn't done that before either, so that was quite scary, because I'd always done written out instructions. I'd never knit by a graph before, so that was just an extra layer of but it was completely fine. Actually, I found it really quite helpful. It was really good to see a little bit of a picture about what it should look like. I don't think I went wrong, actually. I think I was very worried that I would, but it was really, really clear, and I didn't have any problems with it at all. To the point where, and in fact I love this so much, I am fully intending on making at least one more, maybe two, because I just adore it so much. I'm thinking this would look really good in like a dark green, so that's one, or like a deeper wine red. That's another one I think would look really, really nice. And I think one of the things that stops me wearing this is just because it's such a pale colour. I think I'm absolutely petrified of spilling anything on it. So I think a darker colour might reassure me to wear it more often. But I think if I would just quite happily have a host of these in all different colours, and I don't think I could ever get enough of it. This is my favourite garment that I've ever made, ever. Hands down, no competition. It's just so soft and cozy. Yeah, I wore it last time I visited my grandma up north. I wore it into the yarn shop, and the second I walked in, everyone was like, what is that jumper? I was like, oh, well, because you go into the yarn shop, you have to wear something you've made. I did see somebody wearing one at Stitch Fest Southwest as well. She was wearing it in a grey, and when she walked past, I was like, I know what that is. I love it so, so much. So yeah, this is the Chunky Dahlia sweater. There are quite a lot of, I don't want to say variations, a lot of options for the pattern. I think there's a cardigan version as well, and there are some children's size versions, so there's quite a lot of options if anybody does want to make this sweater, and I'd highly recommend it. I want all the Chunky Dahlias. I love it. And there is one of the things that really sold me on it as well is the yoke pattern. It's one of the majorly Instagrammable pictures is when people finish the yoke, because it's a yoke design top down, and when people finish the yoke, they'll have it all laid out, and then they'll take a picture of just that all the way around. And I absolutely knew, I don't have it set up unfortunately, but I knew that I wanted to get my yoke pattern of the Chunky Dahlia because I was just so obsessed with it. And the day that I finished the yoke, I set it all up properly. I was like, this is it. I've done it finally. And it was a real proud moment actually, because I'd been so nervous about making it, thinking that my knitting skills weren't good enough to make it. So finally having that finished yoke, knowing that the rest of it was fairly simple, was a really proud moment. I was dead chuffed with that. So yeah, watch this space. There is quite likely to be another Chunky Dahlia, maybe two. We'll see. I've got so many other things I want to make that making duplicates of things isn't necessarily my highest priority, but I think if there's anything I'd want to make twice or three times, it would be this. Just absolutely adore it. So yeah, Chunky Dahlia sweater, high recommendation. So I have a few finished objects that I'm going to talk about. The first couple, I can't really claim for myself. They are the Granny Square blankets I've mentioned on the podcast before. We had quite a few Granny Square donations for my club at school because they wanted to make blankets to send to animal shelters. I haven't had a chance to actually go and take them in yet, but I do have two finished blankets here. that have been done by the students. So got one here, and they did say they wanted a variety of sizes because they were like, well, you've got dogs and cats in different sizes, so we can do some small blankets for the smaller dogs. So I think that's you just trying to get out of sewing squares together. But no, they make a good point. So we would need a variety of sizes. So one blanket and another blanket. They had a lot of fun coordinating colours and trying to figure out which colours should go together. There are a couple of blankets that are still in process, so we will see. I might donate them in batches rather than waiting, because I know that they really struggle around this time of year for blankets and towels and things. So I might donate those two and then see which ones get finished off at school. So there are a couple still in progress, but I thought I would just show off those. So they've done really well with those. So our first one was the Granny Squares blanket. But I do have some more finished objects that I can talk about now, because I've mentioned quite a lot on the podcast that I've had secret projects that I haven't been able to talk about because they were gifts for people. Some of those gifts have now been received and opened, so I feel like I can talk about them now finally. It's been so long and I've been really, really good. I'm normally terrible at wanting to tell people what I'm making for them, but I've been really, really held back. So I'm actually going to talk about some of the presents. I'm only going to talk about the ones that have been received. I'm not going to spoil any that haven't. So the first one I'm going to talk about, which one's first on my list. I've got a lot of notes because some of these were made quite a while ago, so I've had a lot of notes. Let's do this one first. So this first one is the Maelstrom scarf. No, that's too high. So this is the Maelstrom scarf pattern. For this project I used Drops Snow, which I believe used to be called Drops Eskimo, but this is in the colour navy blue. It was a single stranded yarn, but really, really chunky, made of 100% wool. It felt warm. That was the instant kind of reaction that I had to that. I knitted with that and I thought this is going to be warm. And it blocked really, really nice as well. I think it's because it was 100% wool. It bloomed lovely, and when I was blocking it, it went exactly the way I really wanted it to. So this is a lovely one to block. So this is a pattern by Lavish Craft, and it was quite a complex one. So there are some times when I'm knitting and I get used to a pattern, you've kind of done one or two repeats and you think, yeah, I'm good to just keep going now, I don't need the pattern. This was not one of those. This was one where I definitely needed to keep checking the pattern. I had to have it in front of me, which it's a shame because it means I don't feel like I can just go with it, but at the end of the day it is a slightly more complex pattern and I feel like it was worth it by the end because it is a really lovely pattern. I did quite like this, and I liked the way that the kind of the cables twisted round, and I think that the name, the Maelstrom scarf, I thought that just fit perfectly. So yeah, I wasn't able to just go with it, and I think for that reason when I first started this I felt like I wasn't enjoying it. I don't know whether it was a combination of the fact that it was a really chunky yarn, it was a twisty pattern, and at first I thought, I'm not sure I'm enjoying it. So I thought, well, it's not for me, it's for a friend, so I'm going to stick through it. But actually, as I got going and the pattern started to emerge and I could see it more clearly, I think the satisfaction started to creep in. So I started enjoying it a lot more once I could see the pattern and it was clear as to why I was doing all this really fiddly stuff with it. So the longer I went on, the more I enjoyed it. And because it was a really chunky yarn, it grew really quickly. So it was a really nice one to make because it was so fast. And I will forever appreciate a fast knit. So yeah, it took, I think it was at least one repeat of the pattern before I started to enjoy myself. But actually once I got into it and I could see it, then I thought, no, I'm really liking this. And I've mentioned before as well, I have quite powerful associations sometimes with what game my boyfriend is playing when I'm making something, because quite often one of the ways we'll spend our time is he'll play games and I will watch and craft, knit or crochet. So I end up with a really powerful association with what game he's playing and whatever I'm making. So this scarf is Rimworld because he's been on a bit of a Rimworld kick recently, and when I was making this I was watching Rimworld pretty much most of the time I was making it. Because I had to be sat in front of the pattern, I was normally at my computer and watching Rimworld. So this is a really powerful association with Rimworld for the Maelstrom scarf. So Maelstrom scarf, I did have a little, you can't really quite see it on the picture. One of the ways that I've been gifting it is I've got a stamp with the washing instruction, a blank template washing instructions, and I find those so useful for gifting, partly because it makes it look really nice and presentable when I do the little gift tag, and then they're not worried about washing it. So I usually use the yarns washing instructions, and I include that, as well as the name. Don't know why. Doesn't necessarily mean anything to anyone but me, but I don't know, it's just the way I like to gift my projects. I usually gift them in the organza bags that the yarn comes in as well, because I just think it's nice, and I'm trying to reuse it, trying to waste less. So I gift them in the organza bags with those little labels attached on. So yes, gift number 1, the Maelstrom scarf by Lavish Craft in Drops Snow Navy Blue. So that is gift number 1. Gift number 2 is the Quay scarf. So this one, no, it wasn't the last one I finished. The last one I finished is actually still blocking, so I won't be talking about that one. But this one is the Quay scarf. This is by Jared Flood, that's it. And I made this in Cascade 220 in grey. So this one is, obviously it's a cable work pattern, so it was made in 100% wool. It was a bit of a splitty yarn at first, but actually once I'd got past the initial casting on stage, it was fine. But it had a really nice rustic feel to it because it was 100% wool. So as I mentioned, this is a pattern by Jared Flood. This is a charted only pattern, which I don't know why, but my instinct is to go, oh, I don't know why. Because as I mentioned when I was making this, I found the chart really useful. I can absolutely knit from charts. So I don't know what it is that made me panic a little bit. Maybe I just like to have the choice. But this is a charted only pattern. So it's not my most preferred way, but I do like the fact that, you know, you can see how it's supposed to work up. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me being a bit funny. But yeah, I found it perfectly fine, and it was one of those where, again, once I'd done a few repeats, I didn't have to sit with the pattern in front of me. I could just go. So this is quite obviously a cabled pattern. When I do cables, if I can help it, I prefer not to use cable needles. However, with the number of stitches you were swapping over on this was a cable needle requirement. There are some stitches that you have to move to you kind of bring 3 to the front and then 2 to the back, and blah, blah, and I was just a bit too worried about dropping stitches. I can fix drop stitches quite easily, but when it comes to cables, I think I worry about fixing it in the right way. So I thought, no, I'm just gonna go with the cable needles and do that. But I mean, it wasn't too slow. I find cable needles a bit fiddlier than just swapping the stitches around on the needle. If I can help it, I'll just swap them, but it wasn't too bad. Although the funny thing about this, I actually took this with me on a trip. We went to visit my partner's grandma a few weeks ago, and took this with me. I got my bag out. I thought, I've forgotten my cable needles. So I couldn't believe it. I was like, you are joking, we're away for a whole weekend. This is the only thing I've brought, and I've forgotten my cable needles. I did manage to botch it, and I don't have the picture, but I did have a stitch marker. So I used my stitch marker to hold some stitches as I was pulling, and I was looking through my handbag. I was like, I'm sure I must have something that I can use as a makeshift cable needle. I ended up using a padlock. It worked. So I had a stitch marker holding some stitches to the back, and a padlock holding the stitches to the front. I consider that resourceful. It worked. But yeah, this wasn't one I could do without a cable needle. So like I said, it's not my preferred way of doing it, but it actually wasn't too slow, because it was, I think this is a worsted weight yarn. off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure it's worsted. Yeah, so it wasn't really slow. But yeah, this isn't one I could do without cable knitting. Not when I'm swapping 8 stitches around at a time. I mean, there are probably people that can do that. I'm not one of them. So it took a few more repeats than some other projects before I could do it without the pattern. I think because there were so many swaps. I think this was it a 19 row repeat? I think it might have been a 19, but figuring out which swaps are happening where and which ones are going over and under took a little while to rehearse in my head. So I was about halfway through this one before I started being able to just absolutely go with it. But I was really chuffed with this one. I think as well, this kind of gives me dwarven vibes. I don't know whether that's just because I'm a huge nerd that loves D&D and Lord of the Rings and stuff, but I don't know, this particular pattern gives me dwarf not Maelstrom, that's the name of the other scarf. What's it? Mithril. Just, I don't know, gives me dwarven vibes, which to be honest was perfect for the person that it was intended for. But I think that's one of the things I liked about it. With these, I deliberately picked colours and patterns with the person that it was intended for in mind. I was really quite in depth looking at who gets what and what colour they get and things like that. So actually this one fit perfectly with its recipient. But I was I enjoyed this one. This was quite a good one. I really liked it, and it blocked lovely as well because it's a cable. It was kind of all scrooched up when, that's a technical term by the way, when I finished. But actually after blocking it, it just, I think it was one of those where I was taking pictures of the blocking, just going, oh, but look at it now, look at how pretty it looks, all nice and flattened. So this was a lovely one to get off the blocking mats. I was really happy with this one. So yeah, the Quay scarf by Jared Flood in Cascade 220, the colour grey. So that is my second finished Christmas present. There are a few more, but I'm not going to show them yet because they haven't necessarily been received and seen, so I'm going to keep those under wraps. There are a few that I haven't finished because life. But the people that are getting them late know that they're getting them late. And some of them aren't my fault. One of them, the yarn hasn't even arrived. We've had a lot of postal delays recently, so it's not all my fault. So there we go. First few Christmas presents. I did, of course, make the Hibernate blanket and the single malt sweater as well, but I've shown those before, so they're all done. Most of the presents that I intended to give this Christmas are done. I just wasn't able to quite do all of them, which, that's life. I oversubscribed this year. I massively oversubscribed this year. One thing I did finish though, and it's already been sent away, so it's another picture, is my monkey. So this is part of the Teddy task. I am finishing some projects that the mum of a friend of mine didn't manage to finish before she sadly passed away. So I am now finishing her projects and giving them back to the family so that they can still have the projects that she'd started for them. So this was the monkey that I definitely originally thought it was a duck. It absolutely wasn't. It's definitely a monkey. And I finished him a few weeks ago. So he has been received. He is back with the family. And I'm really chuffed with him. I think he's the cutest little monkey. So most of it was made already. In fact, everything but the tail was made already, and it just wasn't assembled. So I assembled it all. The kind of the mouthpiece wasn't. It was partly sewn on. It had been started to be sewn on, and then the rest of it was pinned on. So I finished that, added the ears, sewed the head to the body. The arms were actually crocheted into the body, so they were already attached. Added the legs, and then once I knew it was a monkey, I knew he had to have a tail. It just had to. So I did make the tail. It was a really easy one. I just did a magic ring and kept six stitches and just made a really long tail of 6 stitches round. Kind of just kept measuring it, aligning it up and going, nah, a bit longer, until it got to the right length, what I felt was appropriate for the teddy, and sewed it on. And I did flare it actually, no, at the end, because I couldn't find a pattern for this, so I did have to just freestyle it. When I'd got the tail to the length that I felt was appropriate, I did increase a little bit just on the, I don't know what to call it really, the join maybe. I just wanted to increase so that I could flatten it like a bit like a flare out, so that it would attach to the body really nicely, so that I could sew it on really securely, because I don't know who the family are going to give this to. I don't know whether it's going to be to their little one. I wanted to make something that would not come off. So I flared it out a little bit, sewed it on, and that tail is not coming off. Not easily, anyway. So I made sure to make that as absolutely secure as possible. And like I said, I just flared it out. I don't know what the pattern was intending. It didn't seem to be included with the patterns that I received in the delivery. So I did have to kind of just go with instinct. But I think it worked. I think he's the cutest little monkey. I think he's very sweet. So he was received last week, I believe. Yeah, I think it was last week. Oh yeah, there's the mulled wine tea. Yeah, he was received last week, and they were really made up. It does mean that I'm going to need a new teddy task, so I've got my dice ready. I'm going to roll at the end of the episode, and we're going to pick which one is the next one on my list. I did want to do 3 by the end of the year, but like I said, life, stuff happens. Doesn't always let us do all the crafting we want. But two is not too bad. They were told when they handed them over. I said, I don't know when I'm going to be finishing all of these. I can't give you any deadlines. Thankfully they were fine about that. So I said I'll just probably pop one over every so often when I have chance to finish it. Most of them are actually in various stages of completion, but most of them are towards the end of completion. They just haven't been sewn together. So it does mean that it's not extensive, the amount of work I have to do. Like this one, I mean, it's only the second one, but this is the first time I've actually had to make something. The rest of them, it was just a case of sewing. But the tail, I thought the monkey needed a tail. So yeah, the rest of them have just been sewing. But I've got some of them laid out here. So I've got my dice. I'll do a roll for the next teddy task in a bit. So there we go, monkey. So those are my finished objects that I'm now able to talk about. I have one whip on the go. I mean, I have several whips. I went through them all last episode, but I've got one whip that I'm actively working on. It's a secret, so I'm not going to show you the project. I will show you the yarn that I'm using, because I'm quite taken by this actually. So I'm using yarns held together. Make sure the project stays in there. It's only small. I've not long started it, but I'm using these two held together. So this one is Fibre Space Gleam Lace in Deep Forest. It is stunning. I love this. It's lovely and tonal. It's got some kind of, I don't think the colours are coming through on here as much as I'd like. It's got some browns in it. It's got some teals. It looks like something, it's kind of almost got like an iridescent quality to it. It is just stunning. It's a lace weight yarn, which I don't know why. I thought it was, when I was about to start the project, in my head it was a fingering weight. So when I saw it was lace weight, I thought, oh no, this is going to take ages. But actually it's not working up too slowly. And I'm holding it together with Drops Kid Silk in dark green. I'm on a bit of a mohair kick recently. I know I'm a bit late to the mohair trend, like a good year or so late to the mohair trend, but I'm here for it. I really am. I think this project and then the next 2 that I've got queued up are all including mohair. So I'm absolutely here for the mohair trend, even if I am hugely late. So yeah, I'm holding these 2 together and it's producing such a lovely fabric. Like I said, this one's got kind of almost an iridescent quality to it, which is just stunning. So I'm very excited to see how this project works up. I'm really looking forward to it. And also, as beautiful as this colour is, it wasn't quite what I had in my head that I wanted to go for. But thankfully, with this kind of slightly more mossy coloured mohair, it's kind of combining into the exact shade I wanted, which is very satisfying indeed. So holding those two together for the current project, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how that works up. I don't know when I'll be able to show it to you, whenever it'll be finished, but hey ho. So yeah, that's my current whip. Sadly, cannot show you. Tough, you'll just have to wait and see. So I'm actually going to talk about now what my plans are for knitting over Christmas, because like I said, we're in the Christmas holidays now. It's all finished, and I am fully intending on spending a lot of this time crafting. So I do have some gifts to finish. That's kind of the first priority. But what I'm planning on doing after that, and I'm thinking I'm going to try and do this between Christmas and New Year. I don't know why. Maybe it's, I think I do know why. I think I can blame Black Sheep Wools for this. Every year they do a Betwixtmas project. So it's a project that you can start in between Christmas and New Year. And the usual goal is to finish it in that week, in that kind of limbo week where you don't know what day it is, and you're just kind of snacking through everything and looking at all your presents and things, and they have a project that they can do. And I've never done a Betwixtmas, so it's a bit of an interesting association that I seem to have, but I really liked the idea of having a project that I could just do in that 1 week and finishing it, and then maybe having a fresh project started for the new year. So I'm wondering if I might do an in-between Christmas and New Year. I might even do two, because I am planning on making the Augustine number 22 bows. I don't have a picture prepared actually, but I have been really wanting to do at least one of these for quite a while. I would really love to wear it in my hair. I think I would get a lot of wear out of those. So when I was at Stitch Fest Southwest, I saw the Along avec Anna stall and knew that I was absolutely going to get some yarn for an Augustine number 22 bow. And I've got two. So I've got these gorgeous kind of maroony shades, because it does use, I think it uses a fingering weight, and is it fingering or is it sport? I think it's fingering weight, and a mohair, again with the mohair. So it uses them both held together. So I've got this one, which I actually wear a surprising amount of this colour for work. I don't know what it is, but I wear this colour quite a lot. So I knew that one would be a good one to get. But then I thought, you know what? I want something that I can wear if I'm not wearing that colour. So I got a slightly more neutral one as well. So this is like, it's like a silvery grey colour. Again, mohair and fingering weight. So I don't know which one I'm going to do first. I was very tempted to cast this on 2 days ago, and I was very good, and instead I cast on the other Christmas gift that isn't going to be finished by Christmas. So I was very restrained, very nearly did that, because I'm actually planning on wearing that colour on Christmas Day. And I thought, I could have that finished by Christmas Day and I could wear it. And I thought, no, be good. So there is a high chance I will be doing one of these between Christmas and New Year. I haven't decided which colour to go for yet. Maybe I'll do a dice roll, but not today. So yeah, I think at least one of those. There is a chance I could do both. It's not a big project. The bow you end up with, it's only that big. So I might do both. I suppose it's going to depend on how much of this gift I get finished. So that is plan number 1 for in between Christmas and New Year, is to make myself an Augustine number 22 bow for my hair. The other potential project, like I haven't signed myself up for enough, is to possibly do a bit more on the portal square. So for those of you who are not familiar with the portal blanket, this is the blanket that I have been supposedly making for my boyfriend for coming up to 3 years now. I'm averaging at 1 square a year, so it's taking a while. I'm on square number 3. Haven't done much of square number 3. I started it in August with the intention of speeding up my average, and it didn't work because I haven't touched it since August. So that is where I'm up to. It's no different from where I was the last time I showed this. So it's this corner on the cake, so you can just about see that's the side of the cake. So if I do run out of things to do over Christmas, which I highly doubt I will, this is the next one. next one to do. I'm going to have to prioritise this because I started this in August with the intention of upping my average. If I don't get this finished before the new year, my average is going to drop. So actually, I might have to expedite that one a little bit. But one of the things I'm thinking about doing next year is doing some game streaming on Twitch. And I'm considering doing Portal. Purely as a motivational tactic. Because I'm thinking, if I play the game, I'm gonna get into it and I'm gonna think, oh yeah, you know what? Let's do the bottle blanket, maybe. So that is one of my potential things to do for 2023 to help me with my motivation for finishing the Portal blanket. So possibly another Christmas one, although that is another one where I can't do without the pattern in front of me. I've been using Stitch Fiddle for this, and because it's a colour work pattern, I do have to have pattern in front of me, and because there's so many colours going on at the same time, I say so many, I've got a lot of threads going on at the same time. It's not a simple mindless just sit and go pattern. So I think that's one of the things that has slowed me down with it. If it was something I could just sit and do a bit, I think it would have been quicker. But so yeah, if I run out of things, which I'm definitely not going to, that is my next task to do. So the next thing I'm going to talk about, which one should I do first? I'm going to do acquisitions first. I've not gained too much in the last few weeks, but I've gained a couple of bits. So a friend and I went to Totnes a few weeks ago now, and I found a yarn shop. So I went in, and I did actually have to laugh a little bit because I sent a picture to my boyfriend of the yarn shop. I was like, oh look, I found a yarn shop. So I sent a picture of the shelves all kind of laid out, and the response I got was, cool, that's nearly as much as you already have at home. It's like, okay, that was uncalled for. But I still came away with something. Only the one. Because I recently got myself a Higher Sharps interchangeable sock knitting kit. Because I'm really keen on the idea of making some more socks. I've made a pair of socks. It was the Sun Up Socks by Lily Kate Makes. I have made a pair before, and I really like the idea of making more. So I got myself some Rowan sock yarn. Really nice and simple. There were a few options, but this is a fingering weight. Yes, it is a fingering weight. It's 75% wool, 25% polyamide, and it's kind of like a nice tonal blue. So there are quite a few different shades in here. And I've got a lot of fingering weight yarn, kind of scraps. So there is a chance I might do a contrasting heel, toe, and cuff, maybe. But yeah, I just wanted a nice sock option. So I was very good. This was all I bought. Very restrained. So I did buy myself some Rowan sock yarn. I also recently bought myself some new row counters because I've mentioned before, one of my terrible habits, this was the one I had earlier, and I have an awful habit of putting it on and totally forgetting it's there. And then walking around, leaving the house. I've started teaching classes with that round my neck. I've totally forgotten. And it's just a terrible habit. I've walked the dog, I've gone to get petrol, I've gone to the shops wearing my row counters. I've gone to meet friends for coffee and they've said, Nicola, you've still got your thing. I have to really sheepishly take it off. But because I have several whips on the go, I wanted to have a few more row counters so I don't have to worry about remembering what row I'm on. So I did treat myself to a couple more row counters, and these ones aren't on strings, so I can't accidentally leave them on. So this one, they're both Knit Pro. I haven't used this one yet. So this is a pink polka dot row counter. So I haven't opened this one yet, so I can't necessarily comment on it. I have been using this one. So this is part of their I think it's a meditation, the Mindful collection. So it actually came in this really cute little bag. So they've got a new collection and it's all kind of greeny blues and whites, and it all looks very pretty, and I don't need any of it. don't need it. But this, so this is a row counter. Like I said, it's part of the Knit Pro Mindful collection, and I know it's just a row counter, but I really like it. It's got a really nice click to it, which sounds ridiculous, but the actual clicking mechanism is really nice. It's an easy one, but it feels the kind of the tactile element of it feels really nice. I think the only flaw that I've found with it so far is, and I don't know how well that's going to come through, those numbers, which are showing lovely on the screen, as irony would have it, aren't necessarily the clearest, like, by eye, because it's kind of like a bubble. It's like a magnified plastic, and if you're looking at it at the wrong angle, it looks a bit funny. But that's the only fault I could possibly find, and that's having to be a little bit picky. So, but actually I'm quite taken with this so far, and not just because I can't accidentally leave it on and go wandering. But I quite like the fact that it comes in this little bag as well. So the teal row counter, part of the Mindful collection. It says easy to see numbers. I don't know, maybe it's just me. If they're not exactly central in those bubbly plastic bits, it can be a bit difficult to read, but no. So I'm using that on my current project. Like I said, I'm just really liking the click. I don't know, maybe that's just weird of me, but I'm really enjoying the click. So yeah, I treated myself to some new row counters. I also treated myself to some more yarn. So I mentioned when I went to Stitch Fest Southwest, I got some beautiful yarn from the Camel's Yarn, and I got 4 skeins of it in a gorgeous kind of beigey mink colour. It's got like pink hints to it, and I just absolutely adored it. But when I came back and started looking through patterns, I didn't have as much as I wanted. I wanted something that was going to be a little bit of oversize, it's going to have like a decent amount of positive ease to it, and 4 skeins was not going to be enough for the style of sweater that I wanted. And I contacted Hannah at the Camel's Yarn, and I did say, yeah, I don't suppose you have any in the same dye lot, do you? And she said no. So I was really torn as to whether I do it. Do I risk it and go for a same colour in a different dye lot, or do I go for a different colour and try a bit of a colour work oversized sweater? I'm thinking like bottom colour work, so cuffs of the sleeves and then the bottom, which I might design it myself. I'm thinking of something like maybe the No Frills sweater, was that it? No, the Stockholm sweater, or something of that kind of vibe. I haven't really decided yet, but I'm thinking of designing some kind of nice pattern on the bottom of that. So I went with the different colour. I didn't want to risk a different dye lot, so I went with a different colour, and I got this, which is beautiful. I think this is the colour. Pine Cone. It is. Yes, it's Pine Cone. So this is, about to drop it. This is Merino DK. It's 100% merino, 100 grams to 225 meters. So it's about double knit weight. I just love it so much. I just think the colours that Hannah does are stunning. They're so beautiful. And I really liked this brown because it's quite a warm brown. It's kind of coming through. The camera just isn't doing it justice, but it's a lovely warm brown, and it's got some kind of paler pinky tones to it, which I think would pair perfectly with the yarn that I already have. So actually I was made up. This arrived, I think it wasn't yesterday, it was the day before, I think, but this is perfect, and that's going to give me just enough for a nice positive ease sweater with a little bit of colour work on it. I think that's one of my plans next year, is to start a foray into colourwork knitting, because I haven't really done any yet. I've got a little practice swatch that I've been doing over there just to try some colourwork, and I think I'm ready. I'm seeing so many colourwork pieces that are just stunning, and I think I'm now at the point where I want to try some. So this is one of the things I'm going to be using to do it. So I'm going to pair it with my, I think it's called Dawn Haze, the colour that I did, the first colour that I got. I'm very excited. I just love these semi-solid colourways. I think they're just beautiful. So yeah, that's one of the things. Speaking of, that is actually the next thing I'm going to talk about, is my plans for 2023 in terms of crafting. I've got a few ideas, some things I definitely want to do. Obviously finish my 2022 Christmas presents. Whether that takes me to February or not, I will finish these Christmas presents. But some of the things that I am wanting to do, I've kind of had in my head for a little bit, and I've got a few that are definites for next year. I think the first one I'm going to make, despite what I said earlier about not really wanting to duplicate patterns, the first one is going to be a duplicate, because I'm going to make a second Lawrence & sweater. I adore this. This is a Lily Kate Makes pattern. This was the first ever knitted garment I made, so it's a little bit close to my heart. I really like it. But the only problem is I don't think my skin likes the yarn. It was James C. Brett in Aztec Aran. It's an alpaca and acrylic mix. I do have other garments, not handmade, store-bought, that are alpaca acrylic, and they don't seem to like my skin. That's the only thing that I find wrong with this sweater. I probably don't wear it as much as I would, purely because of that. It's the fibre just doesn't seem to agree with me. So I do have, in fact I have it here, this yarn. This is Malabrigo Rios in the colour Gris, and this is going to be the Lawrence & Sweater Mark II. This, I think, is going to be one of my first garments of 2023, and I'm quite excited. The only edit I'm going to make is, when I made this one, I did it with the waist shaping, which is an optional kind of fit for the bottom of the sweater. You can do it with the original, or you can do it with a slightly tailored waist. I think I'm going to go for the original. I'm just feeling a slightly longer one, slightly looser around the bottom, and yeah, so I think that's the only edit I'm going to make, but I'm really excited. I quite like this grey. I feel like it's going to go with a lot of stuff, and I'm really excited. I've had this one on my list for a little bit. I've had this yarn since May, I think, end of April, beginning of May, so this has been one that I've been planning on doing for a while. And like I said, it's a shame because I love this sweater. I wear a lot of blue, and it's just the fibre. It's just the fibre that my skin doesn't seem to agree with. So Lawrence & Sweater Mark II is going to be one of my first garments of 2023 in this particular yarn. One of my second ones, I don't know whether it's necessarily going to be the second one, but I am yet to try brioche stitch. And I think it's another case of the lace from this one where I'm terrified of it for no reason. But I want to try brioche stitch because I would love to make the Ribblesdale vest, again by Lily Kate Makes. I adore her stuff. So this is a pattern she released, I think it was the end of last year. I think it was alongside her yarn line release, and I love it. So I bought some of her yarn, and I forget the exact colour name. This is in the Lagrangian way. So this is a worsted weight yarn. This is Lily Kate Makes Axis, and I've had this for quite a while as well. And I really, really want to make this kind of waistcoat vest style thing. And I think 2023 is the year I'm going to do it. I'm going to make a lot of stuff for myself next year. I've made a lot of stuff for other people this year, and I think I really want to do some of my own next year. So this is also one of the ones on my list, the Ribblesdale vest by Lily Kate Makes in Axis by Lily Kate Makes. Like I said, I've not tried brioche before. There are a couple of things I would like to do that use brioche stitch. So it's on my list of stitches to conquer. My list of things to achieve for 2023 is master brioche stitch, and this is the one I'm going to do it with. So the Ribblesdale vest. I'm quite excited as well. So this is a 90% merino and 10% Surrey alpaca yarn. Quite excited for this one. Because I've had this for quite a while as well. I can't remember when I got this, but I have had this for some time. And I think it's just the fact that it's brioche that has kind of held me back a little bit. So I'm quite excited for that one. So this is the thing, I've got the yarn for all these ready, and I think it's just been a case of actually taking the plunge and going for it. Speaking of things to conquer, as I mentioned, colour work. That is one of the things I would absolutely like to kind of get over my fear of. I don't necessarily have a fear of it. I think I'm just very aware of a lot of the things that can go wrong with colour work. So I know that if you get your gauge wrong, it can kind of cinch up a little bit. If your floats are a little bit too tight, I know that you've got to catch the floats. And I think just having all that in my head is causing me to go, oh, there's a lot to do there. But I want to do some colour work because I want to get some Jennifer Steingast sweaters done. I've got, I think, about 3 or 4 of them in my queue, and I think they are so beautiful. I just love them. So I haven't decided which one. I know that I've had this one on my list for quite a while. This is the Dark Water sweater, and I love it so much. I've got a couple of options that I could do here. So I've got these here. These are Shepjes Metropolis yarn. So I've got this kind of lovely orangey colour with a paler white. That's option 1, which I have bought specifically for a Jennifer Steingast sweater. Haven't decided which one I'm going to assign that yarn to. It could be this one. It could be Garden Gate, because that's another one I would love to do. I also have, and this is yarn I've had for quite a while, some Cozy Kitchen Fibres yarn, which again is earmarked for a Jennifer Steingast sweater, and I have it in these colours, which is Raspberry Sorbet and then Nude for the colour work. So this would be the main colour, and then this for the contrast. So I haven't decided which Jennifer Steingast sweater I'm going to assign which batch of yarn to, but Jennifer Steingast is going to be on my list this year because she has so many really pretty ones. Like I said, I think I've got 4 of them in my queue, and I just keep adding more and more and more. And I'm just really in the mood. I just keep seeing loads of beautiful colourwork yokes all over Instagram, and it's just kind of making me sit there and go, oh, I want to do it. I want to do it. So this year, 2023, colourwork time. It's going to be a case, I think, of I'm going to end up with a lot of autumn winter knits this year. I don't think I'm going to get as many summer ones. I've got a couple of vests that I wouldn't mind making, but I really want more cozy, warm, wintry jumpers. So, I don't know, maybe this is the snuggle year. The year of the really cozy, really snuggly knits. But yeah, colour work is hugely on my list. And I don't know, this one probably doesn't really count as colour work. It's got multiple colours in it, but I don't think it's going to be, I don't think you can really class it as colour work. But I've had this on my list for so long, and it is the Easy Stripe Cardigan by Siv Kristen Olsen. And that is what all of this is for. So this is Drops, Wish and Kid Silk. I think, how long have I had this? I don't know whether I'm prepared to admit to this. I think I've had that yarn since the end of 2020. Just waiting. And I've known that it's for this. I bought it specifically for this. And for some reason it's just sat there looking very pretty and not doing anything. But that just looks like the coziest thing. The coziest thing. And I think it's knit up on like 10 or 12 mil needles as well, so it's going to be so quick to do. Like, why I haven't done it, I've got no idea. I'll probably knock that out in like a couple of weeks, but I think this year I'm going to go, no, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to finally make the Easy Stripe cardigan, because that just looks like the coziest thing. She's got several more colours in hers that I'm planning on doing, so I've got 3 that I'm going to do. I've got black, which is a bit more buried. I've got this it's not, this is colour 5, it's not got the actual name on it, but it's kind of like a browny colour. And then I've got, is this wheat? No, I don't think it's wheat. It might be. Either way, it's more of a creamy colour. I'm going to stick with the gradient that she's got, so I'm going to have the creamy colour at the top, then it's going to fade into brown, and then fade into black. And I am going to use the kid silk that I'm holding it with as like transitional patches, similar to what she's done, but I'm not going to have a grey. And I don't think I'm going to do a black band on the arms. I think I'm going to keep it as a gradient going all the way down. But like I said, that has been there for so long, and I think it's earned its time on the needles. Plus, I can guarantee that is going to be the warmest thing, and I'm going to wear that so much. So like I said, I don't know why I've not done it yet. I just don't understand why. What's kind of stopped me from doing it. So yeah, those are kind of my main 4 kind of tick list projects, should we say, that I want to get off my list in 2023, because some of them, this one in particular, they've done their time, they've done their waiting, sort of buried away in the stash. I think it's time for them to finally come out of hibernation. So that takes us to nearly 8 o'clock. I have been whittering on for a good hour. I think that's time to finish my tea, which is probably nearly cold by now. So yes, I have a few finished objects, a couple of acquisitions. I've got some more on the way. Like I said, we've had a lot of postal delays recently. I was really hoping I would have one more to show you. I've got at least 2 that are on the way. Hopefully by the next podcast I will be able to show you them. But meh, that's what happens around this time of year, I suppose. So it does mean that there will be some acquisitions to show you next time. Hopefully I will also have a finished project or 2 to show. And next year, so I've got a lot of projects that I'm planning on doing. Maybe some different ones for me as well. Some things I haven't tried before, namely colourwork and brioche. So yeah, that is probably where I will call it. So this is going to be the last one of the year. I hope that whatever you're celebrating around this time of year, that you have an absolutely wonderful one. If you're not celebrating anything, then I hope you have a lovely season with all the knits, all the yarn, all the lovely warm drinks, and yeah, and then I hope you have a wonderful new year. I will see you in 2023. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.